Do you remember watching the Lone Ranger on TV?
Barely.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking about that. Like, it's kind of weird that this game even got made in, was it 91 or something? Like, who was this aimed at? It seems like that's our parents' generation in terms of like using the license to make the game.
It's interesting because every once in a while we'll watch an episode of The Greatest American Hero on Crackle.
Yeah.
The plot in one of the episodes was the original Lone Ranger was going to be like performing at some city plaza, signing autographs. And it was the original, and the Greatest American Hero and his, his lady, I forget her name, the brunette female lead.
Yeah.
And, she's like, she keeps ribbing him about him. He keeps talking about how he grew up on this guy. And, so even in the context of a 1981 episode, it was already seen as retro or outdated or from a past generation already. Yeah. And the actor who played the Lone Ranger in that episode was like the Lone Ranger, and he was an old man in 1981, and he was riding Silver. He did the Ohio Silver in a way, and he was like answering questions for the kids. And it was just like, and I was just thinking the same thing that you were thinking. Why was this game made? Did Konami come across a cheap license?
Yeah, I don't know. Because I can remember watching it, but I can't remember anything about it. Like, I don't remember it as well as I remember like the Andy Griffith Show.
Right. Or Batman and Robin. And that's more recent.
I don't know. I don't like, I know the Lone Ranger is a character and Tonto, obviously, but like, and I can remember myself watching it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you anything about it.
No, I remember the old Superman show, black and white Superman.
Yeah, I remember that show better than the Lone Ranger also.
I don't think I was into Westerns as a little kid. I thought of it as something my dad liked. He had like he had those old records from his childhood up on our bookshelf as a kid. And they were like Hop Along Cassidy and things like that. And I think I just thought, I thought that Cowboys and Indians was what old people used to play. But these days we play cops and robbers.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I also thought the guns were lame because I remember my dad telling me that, it's a 6-shooter. It only holds 6 bullets, even if they're silver bullets. And I'm like, why limit yourself? there's so many better guns available these days. Why would I pretend to be that?
Yeah. Well, no, that's true though. I do remember too. Like, it did seem lame. You're right. Like, in comparison, the little kids you had like running around, you got to choose, like guns and toys that you got to play with. I get that, like in our parents' generation, even in my older brother's generation, like kind of all you had was that cowboy stuff if you wanted to have like guns and just those old 6-shooters. And other kids around had like space lasers or had some kind of cool looking gun, and you're like, you don't want this stupid little revolver.
Yeah, how could the Lone Ranger compete with like Star Wars? I mean, when we were kids.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah, you'd rather have a laser gun or even a lightsaber than.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the record. So there's a movie, and I remember looking it up last time we were talking. I had a record of the soundtrack to a Lone Ranger movie that I believe came out in the early 80s in theaters. I never saw that movie, but for some reason I had the record. At least I knew the song really well.
Sure. This game is supposed to loosely follow this movie now that I think about it. I think I actually remember reading that.
It's like, did Konami just sit on the property for a long time and they...
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, here we have something. Let's do it. Let's use it. For our parents' age, it seemed like that's what they wanted, right? They wanted Lone Ranger riding his white horse. We wanted Riggs and Murtaugh.
Yeah, it's just so amazingly cheesy and campy.
it's stupid. It's just like unbelievably stupid, right? It's like your grandpa telling you some story that you're like, shut up, man. Like, you're kind of entertained when you're really little, but like by the time you're like 4, you realize that it's just some made up bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so cheesy. Yeah. But yeah, there were like people older than 4 that would probably look forward to tuning in all week and see what the next adventure is.
Were your brothers old enough that they were into that kind of cowboy and Indian thing?
No, it's interesting. I was reading about, and then I was watching those commercials from the 60s, and I didn't, realize how many space related toys there were like in the 60s. But it seems like cowboys and Indians or Western toys never truly went away. Like you still could go into Fred Meyer's today and find at least a set of cheap cap gun 6-shooters with little plastic sheriff badges or something.
The little stars.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still there.
Will there ever be a day that it's not there?
I think that if they go, well, yeah, no, I don't know.
I think there might not be, right? Like, because they are kind of like cowboys are kind of like immortalized like knights are, right? And it's kind of the same thing. You're always going to be able to go into the store and find a fake plastic sword.
Yeah. Or a ninja star.
Or a pirate hat.
Pirates, ninjas, cowboys.
Knights.
The village people. Yeah, but I mean, I'm literally thinking of a Dollar Tree toy store right now. They have all that stuff right there.
I don't think that can go away. Because of that, it's also can never really be that cool. It's just like, it's been done to death. I mean, there's still Western shows and movies that come out from time to time that are really good.
Mm-hmm. You like that train? What was the train one?
Hell on Wheels. That was pretty good, and obviously Deadwood was good.
Yeah,
but that's all very different than that. Like none of that is right. None of that is riding a white horse, saving the village.
Yeah, the mask and an Indian companion. Yeah, that kind of just obviously had its origins back in the serials of the 30s, 40s, whatever, 50s, I guess. Which it's all pretty bad. Even those old black and white Superman shows.
They're terrible.
They're awful. Yeah.
I remember the special effects, just how bad they were. And I kind of remember also being blown away when I saw the first Superman movies, I think because of that.
Oh, yeah. Like, step up.
Yeah. It's like, oh, man, this looks real.
Yeah. The standards for the actors, like Superman in my memory, just was like a kind of a pasty middle-aged man. Like, it's kind of like Adam West was kind of
just not muscular at all. Just like
just any guy you'd see mowing the lawn when you walk around your neighborhood on a Saturday, right?
Doughy.
Yeah, just doughy. I remember the Superman guy seemed a little doughy. Yeah. Adam West was doughy as well, but so the Lone Ranger just reminds me of all those.
Yeah, I was never into Lone Ranger, but I still also do, remember a little bit before we even had cable and I can kind of remember when I just didn't have much else to watch, but whatever was on Channel 12, because everything else was like adult shows as I thought of them. And so I just watched whatever was on. Just thinking about how stupid the Lone Ranger looked to us when we were even young kids, right? Like just wearing these tight ass white suit, like again, like you mentioned, like you didn't really have those same body standards that we'd come to accept for like action hero kind of people. Just this fucking dumpy looking middle-aged dude in a skin tight white stupid thing, and it just looks like
it's hard to take seriously even as a kid. Like who's this clown?
He looks like such a goober.
Oh yeah, looks like a character that would be selling cheeseburgers at McDonald's. He looks like
the Hamburglar.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You would still look like an idiot even if you were like cosplaying that at some kind of convention. Oh, no. I'm the Lone Ranger. You look like a dork.
Are you 4?
I think I had an action figure and a horse of both him and Tonto. Maybe my brother did, and I just remember playing with it.
But my brother had like the Cowboys and Indians, like just like the little green army men, but the Cowboys and Indian version.
Oh, yeah, I can picture
Like
that.
those little rubber or plastic guys, like look like they're melted to a little base or whatever.
Yep.
And my brother used to have tons of those, I remember. And I
Yeah.
used to get the army men, and sometimes we would play Cowboys and Indians versus army men
Sweet.
when I was
cool.
really little.
Who would win? Who won those battles in your household?
If I remember, I think I used to always choose Cowboys.
Mhm.
My brother used to choose Indians. I don't know what we used to do with the army men, but I think the army men used to just come wipe everybody out by the end of it.
So it's like you were recreating.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh shit. Oh man, that's
I guess it's kind of dark when I think back in it. You could not pay me to watch this series. we sometimes talk about going what we want to go back and like, nostalgically watch from the past. You could not pay me to watch this show.
Yeah, we don't have enough years left in our lives to,
to waste
on this show.
Yeah, this is one of the very few times where I can say that, the movies never do justice to the books of something, and the video games never do justice to movies, right?
Yeah.
But this is one of the few times where I can say this video game is way better than the source material. Like, this is the Lone Ranger video game is way better than the Lone Ranger TV show deserves.
Yeah.
Because the quality of that was just so goofy.
It came out in 91 or 92, the NES game.
Yeah, let me look at that.
August 1991. So
we were already in high school.
Yeah,
we were sophomores.
That was right before our sophomore year.
Yeah. So that was actually the same time the Super Nintendo came out, isn't it?
Yeah. So one of my impressions when I was playing this game was, or one of my thoughts was, that as impressive as it was, and it was impressive, would I have been as impressed as I am in 2021? Would I have been as impressed in 1991? Probably not, because my high school mind would have been like, I should be playing on the Super Nintendo. Like, this is old. This is
it would have been primitive.
It's impressive for what it is, but
yeah, I mean, it's like Konami kind of took different pieces from different games that they've done. But I do think that it would have been better if they'd just stuck with one or two modes. I could have done without the first person stuff, but I've never liked Zapper games really. But I think if they would have like stuck to having it be a kind of a deeper side scroller, or just even had it been more like Zelda 2, where you just kind of went in between the overhead mode and the side scrolling, and had those parts be a little deeper, it would have been a better game.
Totally. I think it was a jack of all trades, master of none kind of game. Yeah. At least the level that I got to, where there were the stained glass windows, and that was the mission where you had to get 3 different bandits in 3 different places. I think the last one was on a train. Yeah, it felt like Castlevania, but not quite. Right. It resembled it enough to remind me of a better game. It was almost to its detriment that it did that.
Right. No, I get you.
But I still enjoyed those levels.
No, I did too. I thought those were the strongest levels for sure. Obviously, it's way different than Castlevania because you're shooting your gun like each time. So it's kind of like you're dodging, just like ducking and dodging behind things, rather than kind of aggressively attacking so much as you do in like Castlevania.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it kind of just not as fun, quite as fun to play through as Castlevania, even on those levels. But some of them look really cool.
Oh, yeah.
And they totally remind you of it.
So I agree about the shooting first person section, because I almost rage quit the first one. So I ended up doing 2 of them, and just realizing that, it's going to be do this, rinse, repeat, go to the next town. Those levels might have been what kept me at bay. You
mentioned would we have been impressed now back then, and those levels would have really pissed me off back then, because what I did for these was I just brought up like a walkthrough I mean, yeah, it sucks. You have to like turn around. You don't know which way you're facing.
I didn't know how to turn around at first. I had to look
Right.
that up.
That's what I'm saying. So like then I was like, oh, you just have to kind of hope that you're going the right way and keep trying until you get it. But yeah, it was annoying.
You know, the music in those levels, the first person levels it's kind of sinister and it's a little bit terrifying. And it's also very memorable. I think that I could hear that music in, a decade from now, and it would just take me right back to those levels.
Yeah.
It was very unique and distinct, I thought. Those levels themselves were one of the lesser impressive technical tricks that the game plays, to me, only because Phantasy Star, the original Phantasy Stars, they had a similar setup and it was done much better back in 1987 on the, or 6 or whenever, on the Master System. Same console generation, but still so many years before.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally agree. That was not as impressive at all. But that was just kind of like slapping it in there because they're trying to make a game that like covers like every area. Like again, like kind of spread themselves out too much, And I don't know about you. Did you even ever like really any Zapper games? Because I always kind of hated them.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played a Zapper game for more than a minute and a half. Shoot a couple ducks and then, okay, I know how this ends.
Yeah.
I liked the music that played when you beat the level and Tonto started telling you whatever. All the music is great. Not great, but it's
no, it's good. I do like the soundtrack is excellent for sure. One other thing that was annoying about this was, or just kind of shows how I think they were spread themselves too thin, was they have a bunch of people around but that literally say nothing.
Oh yeah.
I don't mind when like you can't talk to everybody or they just say something totally simple even if it's nothing, but like people who are like just I have nothing to say.
Yeah, it literally says I have nothing on a few of those. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that did stick out. The game is so polished in every other, or a lot of ways.
Yeah. It's as polished as most NES games that I can think of.
Yeah, and it's just got such some impressive little set pieces, or when they have the scrolling, the parallax, the soundtrack, and the variety of levels.
Yeah.
I think if you had this game and you didn't have many other games, I can imagine a hard nostalgic factor for this game if you played it back in the day.
Yeah, it was well done for sure. I wouldn't have been disappointed if I would have got this or played this, back in the day. It would have been weird for me to get this. I never would have chosen this, sought, or wanted it at the time. But if for some reason somebody had given me this game, and I imagine probably that's how this game was given to most kids, right? And who's going looking after the Lone Ranger? But it's your grandpa or something was like, oh, my grandson would love this game. Give him Lone Ranger and some Werther's Originals.
Yeah, and hopefully the kids enjoyed both, I guess.
Yeah. Imagine what we talked about before, or when you buy a game and you're so excited and you're driving home and you're reading the manual and you're getting all into it. This would have been the opposite. If you got this as a gift as a kid, or if I did, I would have been disappointed.
Yeah,
I don't want.
Yeah,
I won't want the Lone Ranger.
No.
If I got this in 1991,
yeah,
I'd have been
thanks, stupid.
Thanks, jerk. I didn't want this, but then at some point I would have put it in. I'd have been like, all right, this isn't too bad.
Right, I think so. But given the time, what did we say? August 1991.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Pretty sure
I was not turning on my Nintendo for any reason at that point. That's when I got the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, if not by then, shortly afterwards, Super Castlevania 4 came out, and so just how amazing that game was coming out of Konami.
Yeah.
And then you had this coming out, separated by maybe a year at the most.
But for a totally different generation. I mean, this was definitely their B team, right? I mean, their best was, of course, working on Super Nintendo games. And yeah, we had, people that have been around here for a while using some old assets or some old work or something, saying, all right, I guess we have this license for the Lone Ranger. Let's slap something together.
Yeah, I'm still so impressed by.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like a passion project. It doesn't feel like it's
no,
not even a little bit. It just feels so competent.
Yeah.
In doing what it is trying to do.
Right.
But not nobody cheesy, but the game has no soul,
No, not at all. But then the Lone Ranger doesn't either, right? Like, is there any other way to really do the Lone Ranger franchise justice? I don't know how you could like throw a soul into that, if that makes sense. Like, it is such, you're riding on your white horse, silver, with your silver bullets, this Texas Ranger saving the president somehow, saving President Grant. It makes no sense, I liked what you're saying though about like how competent it seemed, because you're right. It doesn't seem like it's a passion project by any means, but it was just a bunch of people that got this project and we're all really good at their job, and they're like, okay, we'll do our best and make this something.
Yeah, they put it together and the pieces fit nicely, but it's not exceptional in any way. Yeah. The music is probably, the music was great.
The music was really good, yeah. I wonder if that's why there's so many different like games within this, right? It's just like they gave some designers or programmers or whatever a section of the game, and they're like, hey, just put together this part of the game. And it's like, okay, so they put together like 3 or 4 side-scrolling levels, and then somebody else does like a few the top-down levels, and somebody else does those first-person parts, right? And then it's like, all right, you gave us your best for a little bit. We didn't put anything really cohesive together, but here's a couple levels of Castlevania with a 6-shooter, and here's a couple levels of whatever the overhead stuff is. Like,
yeah, well, Jackal.
Yeah, like Jackal or Commando or whatever. Here's a couple levels of this Zapper gun game.
That one smells like a game that was half-baked for another franchise, and they said, hey, let's change the bad guys to cowboys, and we're gonna be making a Lone Ranger game. This will work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed my time playing it.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I mean, it was definitely a good game. It was just the franchise just has zero connection to me. Like it would have been better if it was an unknown cowboy game for me at that age than having to be tied to the Lone Ranger. Like Red Dead Redemption, right? Like, that's fine, like as a Western for me to play.
Yeah.
I like the Lone Ranger game pretty well, really. Not in the sense that I would have ever sat down and played it at the time, or I wouldn't have bought it at the time. If I played it at the time, I probably would have stuck with it for a little while. But so if this came out in August, I mean, I was just begging to play games. Like, I remember being so excited to play ActRaiser, and it's a cool game, but like you finish it in like an hour if you just sit there and play it, and it's like one of the first, games that came out in those first couple months for the Super Nintendo. So I was just playing games that were probably not worthy, but I should have been playing end of life NES games.
Yeah.
Especially at that time, you got screwed by being an early adopter that way. Like, it's a lot less like that now. Because, for one thing, because of backwards compatibility.
And a lot of these games now are being released simultaneously.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. You don't lose much in that switch between generations. And I do think there's some quality stuff here in the NES that we would have missed for the same reason. As a historical artifact, what did we find with the Lone Ranger?
You can go first.
Right. I mean, I think we did find a relic of the past here, right? Almost in every sense of the word. Kind of one of the last remnants of the Lone Ranger as a franchise hanging on to relevance on the one hand. And then it's also is some like quality work at the end of the life of the NES in terms of just the polish of, creating a game, but it was soulless, which takes away from it. It's a tough one, man. It's a relic for sure of something. It tells us something about the past. Maybe it's like an old dug up, to keep it on topic, maybe like an Indian arrowhead or something that you find crafted thing from the past that used to be something that people would be awesome, think super cool to find, but nobody really cares about anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to go away from the physical in terms of looking back in the past. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to go with, I just kind of see it as a pattern through time. If we're looking back and we're trying to learn something from the past, is that this game was competent and it was very well made, kind of by the book, and great graphics, great production values. And it was put together by a major company that knows what they're doing. And I compare that to the Disney movie that when they rebooted this franchise, like it's a big, huge company putting a lot of resources into what I'm sure was a technically well-made product that just never found an audience. I feel like there's Disney's reboot, there's the game that we played, and there was also the 1981 Legend of the Lone Ranger movie that I had the soundtrack to as a kid. I just see it as it's a pattern.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So there's no place for this. It doesn't land ever and create fans or any kind of a splash.
No, has no resonance.
Yeah, I agree. There just aren't many people around anymore that have a connection to the Lone Ranger as a character.
Yeah.
And
I know I'm not passing it on to my kids.
No. I mean, they don't even really seem to give you a reason to like the guy. Why do we care about this guy?
What kind of, I mean, is that the 1930s version of the male power fantasy? It's like now we play first person shooters to get our rage out. But, this was... Pretty much, did every boy want to beat this guy? I mean, you have to assume yes.
Yeah.
But what were the redeeming qualities? I guess you see it today every episode.
Well, in 1991, you can pull out your NES controller and you can go around murdering people as the Lone Ranger. I do. I think it's really weird that it got made at the time that it got made. I can see that. Yeah, it doesn't land successfully emotionally. All the pieces are there to be a good game. I mean, it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I really did. Some of those images of like walking up into the, behind the stained glass windows, or like up into the, the space with the moon look awesome. Some of the soundtrack, it sounds awesome. Sounds a lot like Castlevania. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you never hear about it on like top 10 overlooked games on the NES, or, like if I'm perusing retro gaming sites.
I never knew it existed until we were looking at it. I was specifically looking for a Western themed game. I almost just passed it over just out of hand. I was like, I see the Lone Ranger, hear the name Lone Ranger, and I'm like, lame.
He's a dork.
Get out of here, Grandpa.